Episode number 3 with Keren.
I made it, guys. Made it in life. I can retire now.
So I'm here with a nutrition expert, kombucha enthusiast, fitness instructor, everything wrapped up into one.
What a hype man.
So I'm really glad to have you on the show because a lot of people have been asking, when am I going to get a girl to come on the show? We need a girl. We need someone representing, we need... And also a lot of people were asking to have just things about nutrition. Like just having just conversations about that because obviously it's January now. So people are really, getting into the resolutions and everything and really want to know what they can do. Right? So that is what we're going to do today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we're going to be dropping all the F-bombs for you.
Thank you.
We're not sponsored by Eska, but hey, Eska.
Shout out to Eska.
So we're going to be going through the rundown. As people know, if you watch my show. But if not, the rundown, basically, we're going to be going through a couple questions that people are definitely going to want to know about Kombucha Mami. We'll talk about that name in a second. So full name?
Keren Chen. That's spelled Keren. So I get called Keren all the time. And here's the thing. If Jerome calls me Keren at any point during this podcast, he has to go down and do a burpee.
So...
How did this start? So we were at a Christmas party at a bar, so it wasn't a private function or anything like that. Just amazing. On the dirty-ass bar floor. Yeah. Every time he called me Keren, he had to do a burpee.
Yeah, so I came up to her and I was like, oh, Keren, this is my girlfriend. And then she was like, what? Did you just
hold up.
Me?
Yeah.
What? Burpee right now. And I was just I was slightly...
hold my drink, did a burpee.
I was slightly drunk, so I was like, yeah, definitely I'm going to be doing that, yeah. That's amazing. And, so where are you from?
I'm raised in Toronto, but I was born in Macau, China.
Oh, shit. When did you come here?
When I was 8 years old. So
okay.
I had my 9th birthday here, went through 2nd grade in China, whole different life.
Okay.
Feels like a different world.
Jeez. Do you remember it? Vividly, or is it something that's just a past memory kind of thing?
Yeah, it feels like another lifetime ago. It's really strange. But I'm going back for the first time in 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah, next month.
Wow.
So we'll see.
That's exciting.
Maybe homecoming.
Holy. So are you going there, do you have family there? Or are you going to be just going there just just traveling all over the place?
Just a layover. So
okay.
I'll be there for 20 hours.
Okay.
In and out kind of thing, which is kind of how I like to be in China. There's just too many people.
Okay.
Too many people, too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then when you came to Toronto, where did you start living?
We started living in Scarborough.
Okay.
Scarborough area.
What part of Scarborough? Because I'm from Scarborough too.
Kennedy and Cowan.
Oh, okay. So just right at the...
I don't even know if those intersect. I'm just at the streets.
Well, that's close to the station, probably Kennedy Station, maybe, or is it
a little further north?
A little further north. Okay.
Yeah,
cool, sweet.
Around that part of town, and then we kind of lived all over Toronto.
Okay.
My parents had different jobs. We had to move. We lived in Regent Park at one point before it was revitalized.
Dope.
Revitalized.
Nice.
So last summer I rode my bike through that area.
Yeah.
And it was radically different.
Yeah, it's totally they shut that place down.
Yeah, the city's changing a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So you're from the hood. So that's awesome.
I've lived in the hood, but I wouldn't say I'm from the hood.
Okay, awesome. So we're talking about travel a little bit. So what was your favorite place to travel so far? What has been your favorite place to travel?
Ooh, that's so hard to say. Every place is so special.
Yeah.
Last year I hit a lot of my bucket list places. Morocco was on there. Morocco was beautiful. Mexico City.
Okay.
So cool. So unexpectedly cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Completely different than when I
wouldn't think that.
Yeah, everybody thinks resorts, beaches, and tiny fishermen's villages. It was a metropolitan city. so much culture there, and the buildings that they have there, they aren't allowed to demolish.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the times for new buildings, they would build on top of like old heritage buildings.
Oh, wow.
It's gorgeous.
Wow.
Yeah. And like everything's so cheap there. That was cool. And I also went to Costa Rica. That was probably
nice. Did you travel around like when you were there? Like, did you go to like Amazon or anything like that? Or
I started in central Costa Rica, and then I went out to the Caribbean coast.
Okay.
So that was cool. There's like a lot of Asian and Caribbean influences there.
Oh, wow.
Very unique blend of culture.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was in the jungle.
So your goal is to get to all continents by the time, 2023 you said?
I think I said
2023? Or?
By the time I'm 30.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So I have 5 years.
Ooh.
Just leave my age away.
Alright, so that's awesome. Myself. That's awesome.
Yeah,
so you've been to 4 so far, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. So yeah, we have a few more to go.
That's awesome.
Hopefully I'll get there. 5 years.
That's awesome. Single or in a relationship?
Single.
Ah, nice. We'll get into a little bit more of that later. So, what does nutrition mean to you? Because obviously you're a nutrition expert. So, what does it mean to you, and like how do you view it, and how did you get involved with it?
Yeah, well, that's a big question.
Yeah.
That's like 7 questions wrapped into one. That's okay. I'll just be talking for a while. So nutrition, I feel like, is defined as our relationship with ourselves. You can use it as fuel. You can use it as comfort. There are so many ways that we can have a relationship with food. And how I kind of got into it was I was very sick as a child.
Okay.
And grew up having various health issues, had mental health issues as well. And nutrition was the way that really helped me to rediscover that healing relationship with myself. Mm. So had a pretty life-changing experience using nutrition, and I wanted to share that with other people and help other people find their path using food.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of people don't really take that in often, is that like food is medicine, right? And like and it's a huge thing, and just for not only physical but mental health as well, right? So no, that's amazing. And then when did you start getting into it? How many years have you been doing it now?
Nutrition?
Yeah.
So I graduated 3 years ago. I went to school to become a dietitian at Ryerson University, and as I went through my 4-year degree, I kind of discovered that I didn't want to work for public health because it wasn't quite so personal. I really missed the like intimacy of working one-on-one with clients, mm-hmm. and having the freedom to practice or build a practice based on what I truly believe in. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't stand by the Canada's Food Guide. I think there's a lot of controversy and there's a lot of sketchy kind of science and data that goes behind it.
I would say.
And as I was learning this in school, I remember being the person that kind of challenged my professors, raise my hand and be like, why do we need 11 servings of grains?
Yeah.
Who's funding this? Like, where's the data that says this? Like, I remember being in physiology class and learning, we needed proteins, carbs, and fats, mm-hmm. and fiber, and micronutrients, and then going to, like, a public health class and learning the Canada's Food Guide, mm-hmm. where the ratios are completely different than what I learned to be needed in physiology class. It just, didn't add up. So after that, I decided not to pursue a career as a dietitian, mm-hmm. and I wanted to be more free in my practice. So I became a nutritionist, which comes with its own set of challenges, being unregulated, right? So you're not covered by insurance. You're competing with people that have no claims as a nutritionist, but anyway.
We'll definitely talk about that as well, because that's a huge thing. Even in the personal training industry as well, it's not regulated as well, right? So you'll have just people coming off the streets and just trying to train everybody, right? So okay, cool. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So we'll go through a couple favorites. So favorite food.
Oh my gosh, I can't pick one.
If you were stranded on an island and you had to have one food, what would it be?
Okay, that's a different question. If I was stranded on an island and I had to have one food, it would probably be pho. Okay. Just because you get the bone broth and the noodles and the bits of offal in there for nutrient density and the herbs and stuff. Mm-hmm. But my last meal would be don't laugh at me. It'll be lobster poutine with foie gras on top.
What?
Yeah.
So hold on, I'm guessing you've had that before.
Yeah.
Where do you even get something like that?
It was at like a food festival, and they had one of the food trucks. I don't remember who had it.
Okay.
But there was a lobster poutine, and you had the option of adding foie gras on it. And it was amazing.
That is amazing. I just can't. Okay, first of all, I don't even like poutine that much, but I couldn't imagine with lobster. I'm gonna have to search this up. I'm gonna have to search it up. Find it for me, people. Find the food truck. So favorite. I guess that would be your favorite cheat meal, because that's kind of.
No, because I don't eat that every day. I've had that once in my life, and I'll probably have it again when I die, and that's about it.
Okay, all right. So then, if you're like, you know, you had a terrible night, you know, and you wanna get something greasy or something that is not great for you, what would be your favorite cheat meal? What would that be then? Your go-to.
It's like such a nutritionist answer, but I really don't believe in cheat meals. I just have whatever I want to have, and I don't feel bad about it.
Okay.
I feel like I need to make up for it. But that's a mentality that was obviously like worked on and adopted
for sure
with practice. But my go-to hangover meal is the chicken and waffles at Impact Kitchen.
Ooh.
And they're not even paying me to say that. I feel like they should, because
Impact Kitchen.
I've spent so much money there. But yeah, hook it up. Impact Kitchen. So good. Chicken and waffles.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. Favorite exercise, if you had to pick one.
Like movement?
Yeah, like I would say movement.
I think the squat.
Squat, yeah.
Heavy back squat.
Heavy back squat is your favorite thing to do when you get in the gym? Okay.
Yeah. Just something very cathartic.
Yeah.
Putting weight on your back and just squatting it,
up and
standing
down.
back up.
Because you've been involved with CrossFit, right? So you've gotten the level 1 and 2, or just?
Yeah, so I'm a certified level 2 CrossFit trainer, and I've competed in Olympic weightlifting as well. So
I did not know that.
Well, there you go.
What?
There you go.
Like how long ago was this? When did this happen?
This is many years ago. I want to say 4 years ago now.
Oh wow! Okay,
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Went to provincials.
What?
Still have my little singlet. Don't fit in it anymore, but I
need to find those.
it.
I need to find those videos or pictures. I haven't seen you put any of those up in your TBTs or FBFs. There's no like past videos of that. We need to see that.
Yeah, I used to compete in Olympic weightlifting for a year.
That's awesome.
It was really fun.
I need to see some of those videos.
A lot of squatting.
Okay, cool. So we'll go a little bit into a couple of questions that I find people usually have for me, and like when I'm talking to a lot of my clients or members, they obviously have a lot of nutrition questions, and I'm just like, look, I know these little things, but at the end of whatever I say, I'm like, I'm not a nutritionist, and I never try and steer into that lane because everyone's different, right? In terms of like how they either consume food or how their body takes it in, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's really hard for me to answer those questions. So I'm glad that I have you next to me here to answer a couple of those. So recently I saw one of your posts on fermented food. So you want to just go a little bit into like fermented food and how that can be beneficial for people?
Yeah, that's one of the things that really, I would say, changed my digestion. And that was something that I really struggled with before kind of delving deeper into nutrition, is digestion. And fermented foods specifically are foods that have been undergone this fermentation process with live bacteria. So they're inoculated with these amazing probiotics that when you ingest them, they kind of go into your gut, they help you break down nutrients, and they help you with nutrient absorption as well. And there's been so many cool studies done lately of how the bacterial profile in your gut can actually influence things like hormone production, your immune system, your mental health, like neurotransmitters and all of that. So really, like, we don't know very much about how they work and what the mechanisms are yet. There's going to be more research coming out soon, I think, on that. Yeah. But what we do know is they have a really profound effect on the rest of our body. So when you consume fermented foods that are raw and unpasteurized, so not the shelf-stable stuff, not the stuff that you can keep in your cabinets forever, you want to look for things that go bad or things that need to be refrigerated. These tend to be, live foods that contain these live bacteria that when you ingest them, they help you on all these different levels.
So you want to give us a little example of a food that you would eat that is fermented? Well, like obviously kombucha is definitely one of them, right? So
kombucha is a fermented tea beverage. So when you add sugar to tea, you add this bacteria called a SCOBY, SCOBY. It converts the sugar in the tea base into these organic acids. So that's another way that fermented foods can help your digestion, is these acids help acidify your stomach, so that when you eat things like protein, carbs, or fats, they help you with the breakdown of those. When people have things like acid reflux, or when they have heartburn, those are symptoms of inadequate acid production. So contrary to what kind of popular medicine wants you to believe into buying Tums and acid blockers and things like that, it's actually because your stomach's not acidic enough. So eating things like fermented foods can really help you manage those symptoms.
Interesting. Yeah, I never knew that. And like, so when I'm going to the stores and I'm buying kombucha, is there certain like brands that are better than others? And like obviously you make them yourself, right? So like, is it hard to make it yourself, or is it like
so easy? Yeah, one of the things that really intimidated me about making my own kombucha in the beginning was, is it safe? Am I gonna die of like botulism? But in reality, there are so many things about fermented foods that are inherently safer for them to make versus something like chicken. For example, the acid is one of them. The acid inhibits a lot of the growth of common bacteria, so you're actually minimizing the chances of infection and contamination and things like that. But when you're purchasing kombucha from a store, I obviously prefer homemade, just because then you can control for the sugar that's going into it. You can control how much carbonation you're letting the kombucha naturally conjure. But when you buy them in stores, I always look at the label to see that they don't have added sugar following the fermentation process. It's one thing to add sugar so that you can feed the live bacteria. It's another thing to flavor it with additional sweeteners and sugar.
Because there's ones that do have flavoring in it, right?
Yeah, like natural flavoring is great. Like adding, whole spices like ginger, cinnamon, and all that. I actually brought you some kombucha today to try. We can bring that back. But yeah, like cinnamon and things like that don't need to add additional sugars. Or you can add fruits in there. That's like a way lower in sugar content food that you can add.
Sweet. Okay, well, we'll talk about February 3rd in a second. Yes. But okay, so we'll go to a couple other questions. The keto diet.
Yes.
Everyone's talking about it. My mom's calling me. She's like, I'm doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey man, I don't know a lot about it, but I can find out. So we'll talk a little bit about that and just like what your view is on that.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm affiliated with a neurology clinic in Toronto.
Okay.
And
didn't know that either.
Yeah, didn't know that. No, it's called Neurology Center of Toronto.
Jeez.
And a lot of the patients that I get referred from there are either epileptic or they suffer from frequent seizures and things like that.
Okay.
And there have been a lot of scientific studies done to suggest that a ketogenic diet is very helpful for people with those symptoms or those conditions in managing their seizures or reducing the frequency or the intensity of those seizures. Okay. Yeah, so it is effective in that sense. But then for people that are looking to lose weight or lean out, I personally don't know a single person who has thrived off of a ketogenic diet in the long term. Like, sure, I've heard anecdotes of people losing weight in the first 3 to 4 months or 6 months or even a year, but eventually that weight usually comes back because it's such a restrictive diet. What people don't realize is the ketogenic diet requires you to be in a ketogenic state. So you have to switch your body from a carb burning or carb fueled state into a fat burning state. Yeah. And your body's not evolved to do that. As human beings, we prefer using glucose and carbohydrates for energy. So in order to put your body in this ketogenic state requires really drastic measures. And once you're in that state, it takes really drastic measures for you to stay in a keto state. So it's very restrictive. You can't eat a lot of foods like fruits. You can't eat certain vegetables either. Like you can't have too much carbs in any form. So it's just really restrictive. And I find that it's not conducive with a sustainable, enjoyable, well-rounded lifestyle. Like you want to be able to go to a wedding and have a glass of wine or have a glass of champagne for your birthday, or eat bread once in a while and not feel like guilty or not feel like, oh, I've, undone all this progress that I've made. So like on the mental side and also on the physical side, it's both very restrictive.
That's interesting. And I find like with fads like this, I'm not saying it's a fad, but it's something where people are exploiting, where people are really trying to find more information about it because they're always trying to look for that magic pill or something like some special diet that's going to help them do it, where it's just going to be eating eating nutrient dense foods, right? Yeah.
Well, I think context matters for certain people. Like if you're someone that struggles with epilepsy and you want to try ketogenic diet to manage your symptoms, by all means. And then also for someone that is more insulin sensitive or has a sugar addiction and you want to use ketogenic diet to kind of address that, then sure. But just know that I don't think it's a long-term solution. Like eventually you're going to have to transition back to eating carbohydrates in a moderate amount. And that's all I have to say about that. I would never recommend anyone use that as their end-all be-all diet. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. Another big one definitely is people trying to figure out intermittent fasting. Yeah. Right? Heard several different things about adjusting the amount of hours that you fast for and what foods you can eat after or before because I've heard like there's different ways you can obviously do it. Would you say it's dependent on the person, or would you recommend that at all?
That's a little bit more like, again, context matters. Like what do you do for work? Is your job so busy that eating 6 meals throughout the day is a chore and it's inconvenient for you? Then if so, maybe intermittent fasting works for you. The thing about fasting is I think it works better for males than it does for females, just because of the way that our hormones are set up. We naturally, women don't have as much testosterone in our bodies. That's what makes us women. Whereas guys have much higher testosterone levels, and that allows you to tap into those fat stores a lot more easily. Whereas for us, muscle wasting is more like the preferred form of fueling our bodies under states of fasting. So little pieces of information like that. But I mean, even with the ketogenic diet, I recommend everyone try something once and learn for themselves. It's not like it can't work for anyone. It just has to be done very specifically based on your lifestyle. There are like wrong ways to do intermittent fasting too, right?
And what would you say would be like if someone's just trying it out or someone's wanting to do it, what would be the biggest mistakes that they can make while trying to do that?
I think starting too aggressively. So I have heard you can play with the window of eating. Maybe starting with a 12-hour fast. So like stop eating at 8 p.m. and start eating again after 8 a.m. kind of thing. And then slowly dwindle that window down from there. You can increase an hour every week rather than going full on into like 20-hour fast with a 4-hour feeding window.
No, definitely. And with that, I find that people are still really not sure of like what kind of foods should be eaten like before or after. Is there anything that people should kind of steer away from when they're finish the fasting, or like before the fast? Is there any kind of like foods that they should kind of steer away from?
I think anytime you're coming off of a fast, you should try your best to eat foods that are higher in fat and lower in carbohydrates. Naturally, when you first wake up in the morning, your body's just has higher cortisol levels, so that's a stress hormone. And when you eat a lot of carbohydrates, like waffles, cereals, pancakes, the traditional North American diet, when you eat that, you're putting your body through this crazy insulin spike and crash. And as a result, I feel like that puts your body into more of a fat storage preferred mode. Whereas if you eat like a higher fat diet, that's more satiating, and fat is slower absorbing as well. So it takes longer for your body to metabolize fat and use it for energy. And so it's going to keep you fuller for longer and prevent you from going through that crazy energy roller coaster first thing in the morning.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess as the day goes on, people end up crashing as well because they had a big amount of carbohydrates in the beginning of the day, and then as they go on. But interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. I find, I really find I get that question really often, and it's just like, there's not really much that I can say about it, so it's always good to just like know more information about it, and you can obviously search stuff on Google, but I guess like, do you ever recommend that? Do you ever recommend things like that to your clients, like doing intermittent fasting or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I do have a few clients that are doing intermittent fasting right now. And again, we started with a larger window for eating and we slowly tapered it down based on their feedback and us checking in. And I find that, I don't want to bash these diets like they're all bad. Like there are certainly people that they can work for, right? One of the pros about intermittent fasting, I find, is it gives you a cutoff time at night for snacking. So if you're someone that really struggles with nighttime snacking, having a definitive end time for when you're eating is really helpful mentally.
No, for sure.
Yeah, like if you stop eating at 8 p.m., then you're not going to have that 10 p.m. bowl of popcorn that you usually have, and that's good. And there's nothing wrong with eating later in the evening. It's just that if you want to sleep earlier, like eating really close to bedtime can disrupt the quality of your sleep. Or sometimes the food choices that we make late at night aren't most optimal, right? We're not thinking about, let's eat carrot sticks and celery at night. Like, no, we want to eat chocolate and chips and popcorn and things like that. So, you can definitely make intermittent fasting work for you. It just depends on who you are and what your context is.
Okay, so because I think that's the biggest thing is that people don't realize that it just depends on what your goals are, right? For a lot of the things that you're going to be doing, it's going to be dependent, right? Because if someone's trying to gain a bunch of muscle, they're not going to be eating the same things in the morning as someone who is trying to lose weight, right?
And if you are someone that works out in the morning versus someone who works out in the afternoon, you're not going to be eating the same breakfast because you just exercise versus this person who's going to exercise later in the day, right? So many little contextual differences between people. That's why I really don't like labeling diets. I have clients that eat a gluten-free diet. I have clients that are vegan or plant-based, but I don't ever advocate them to label their diet in any way. Just eat whatever diet works for you. And if it happens to align with a certain principle of a popular diet, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Just worry about what works for you rather than following these arbitrary rules set up by authors and people that tell you what to eat.
I find that's the hardest part is trying to balance what experts are saying versus what enthusiasts on like Instagram and like other like places are saying, because a lot of information gets jumbled, right? So to be able to and I'm sure you have to deal with a lot of those all the time. You get new clients come to you and they have all of these previous notions of what nutrition is or what they need to do in order for them to lose weight or to gain muscle or to do these things, and like you have to like break that barrier before you can like even enter in your own philosophies. Right?
It's interesting. I mean, I recently listened to an audiobook that kind of talked about this mentality. And it's when people want to put their trust in someone else rather than trusting their own intuition and inner voice. And something that I'm so passionate about helping my clients find is listen to yourself, learn your own body language. And like learning any other language, it takes time. It's not going to be like a one day overnight overhaul thing. It's going to take time for you. It's going to take practice. You're going to fail at certain points and you're going to learn from it. And that's okay. And rather than putting your faith in someone else, like put your faith in yourself and your own body and know that it can navigate and help you feel your best and your healthiest.
Okay, so when people usually eat food, they end up when they eat bad food, they end up their body ends up feeling certain ways. They're either mentally or physically. What would you say is a way for people to kind of realize that food is causing them to feel these kind of feelings?
Sure. So for me, I always start with digestive symptoms, Because what a lot of people don't realize is there's an entire nervous system that's innervated in your gut. So we have the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, but we also have the enteric nervous system in our stomachs, or in our digestive tract, I should say, that communicates with the rest of your body, with your organs, with your nervous system, all the other nervous systems anyway. And when you eat something that's really healthful and agreeable with your systems, it tells the rest of your body, hey, we're good. You know, there's nutrients on the way. When you eat something that's toxic, like alcohol or something that you're allergic to, it will tell the rest of your body, sound the alarms. We're under attack. We're under stress. You know, have an inflammatory response on standby. So what you eat really tells a lot to the rest of your body. Yeah. So how you treat yourself is really important in that sense. That, and I also look at energy levels, the quality of your workouts, your mental health, like all of these things are so intimately related. Yeah. And so when I see a new client, we go through this super extensive intake session where I ask them questions about their relationship with food, their outlook on life. Like sometimes apathy is such an indicator of malnutrition because you're not giving your brain the correct constituents to make up neurotransmitters and hormones that form happy thoughts, you know? So little things like that. So we really go through a lot of detail on things that are seemingly unrelated to nutrition, but they really are.
But they really, yeah, and that's a big thing, and that's why I never really understand why people would try and have like a cookie cutter approach to meal planning, or just like understanding what their body needs to be an optimal human being, right? And like I find that's a huge part of it, right?
I think it goes back to the whole having faith in someone else thing. Like, here, let me put my trust in your hands and you take care of me. Yeah. Rather than, I have to do the hard work and take the time to understand me and find out what works for me. Like, that is intimidating and uncomfortable sometimes, but it's the most effective and it's the most sustainable and long-lasting and permanent change.
Yeah. And I find that with nutrition, I find a lot of people don't end up wanting to go to a professional, and they feel like they can just wing it and feel like, oh yeah, I'm just not going to eat this and then I'll be good, right? Instead of like going to an expert and then having them ask you those extensive questions so that they can get a better idea of like, okay, like this is why this is happening, this is why that's happening, right? And that goes with any other kind of profession, right? You wouldn't go take random pills, right? Before asking a doctor. Why would you not have like someone professional look at kind of the things that you're eating, right?
Yeah, I think nutrition is a newer field of service, I think. And sometimes people just have trouble asking for help. Yeah. And I was one of those people. So I understand that mentality. But at the same time, you really have to overcome that if you truly want to be the best version of yourself. Yeah. Like, nobody gets to be who they are, like, the most successful version of themselves by themselves.
It's true.
Like, Beyonce didn't. LeBron didn't. Everybody has a big team of people behind them. And there's no shame in asking for that support.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so another question that I get often is, it's not as much of a thing now, but gluten-free. Okay. So I find that a lot of people are still kind of going down the road. It's like, it's gluten-free, and a lot of like big time companies are like, they have gluten-free on their boxes, right? And everyone's going to buy a lot more of them, right? Yeah. What is your take on gluten-free, like a gluten-free diet?
As a fad, as a trend, I'm not a fan of the fact that you just look at the label gluten-free and you think you can assume that it's healthy, because that's not the case. Okay. Gluten is just a protein that you find in certain grains that are really difficult to digest for a lot of humans. So a lot of people have trouble breaking down this protein, and as a result, when they can't break it down, it causes a lot of GI problems in their bodies that manifests itself in other symptoms like eczema or even rosacea in your skin, or just gassiness, constipation, things like that. So what you want to do is eliminate gluten, but you don't want to buy into a product just because it's gluten-free. That's my thing, is I don't love labeling your diet. I don't eat gluten very often, but I wouldn't say I'm gluten-free because
there's still some things that you eat.
That's very restrictive. Yeah. And it also doesn't mean that I'm healthy. Just because you're gluten-free doesn't mean you're eating well, treating yourself well.
Because there's obviously going to be, you can obviously eat bad things that have that are gluten-free, right?
Yeah, you can get gluten-free cookies that are full of sugar and additives and preservatives. You can, Rice Krispies are gluten-free. Oreos aren't gluten-free. That's a lie. Rice Krispies definitely are.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a label. I would do your research. Like, I definitely think there are merits to cutting out gluten in your diet. That's why I do it. Like I said, a lot of people can't digest it. Mm-hmm. And also the way that our wheat is raised in North America, like a lot of it is GMO'd. Mm-hmm. It's like so genetically modified that pests and insects don't even want to feed on it.
Wow.
You know, that's the whole point of genetically modifying things, so that they're more profitable and they can, you know, provide more grains and provide more stock, and we can make more money off of it. And as a result, you really deplete a lot of the nutrient content in the grains itself. Like when I go to Mexico or Europe, I eat grains and I feel fine.
Okay.
When I was in Italy, I had pasta and it was great.
And that's why people wonder why people from France all they do is eat baguettes and stuff like that, and they wonder why they're not as fat as people in like America and stuff like that, right?
Right. I think food quality is definitely one of them. So the Parisian paradox is a real thing. It's a study that they did looking at why people that live in France are so much healthier than North Americans despite doing very little intended exercise. Like they don't have boot camps or Soul Cycle
gyms down there, like,
or like berries or anything like that. But all they do is eat cheese and croissants and baguettes, and like food quality is definitely one of them. They have such strict food regulations overseas. And the other thing I think is stress management. Okay. So something that is also not food related to nutrition, but has such a large impact on your food choices.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So like they get like super long lunch breaks. They actually sit down and chew their food and eat their meals. They're not on their phones while they're eating. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
It is interesting.
The Parisian, what did you call that?
The Parisian paradox, or the French paradox.
Good to know. Mm-hmm. And then the last question I have, just like from a lot of the people that asked questions, was protein. So obviously, again, it's going to be dependent on the person's goals and what they want to get accomplished. But get the question all the time: how much protein should I be having in a day? Like, is it too much? What's the answer?
This is super, super general. I don't want anyone DMing me like, I did this and I like almost died. Thanks, Keren. So please don't hate me, but this is a very generalized guideline. For men who are very physically active or work out, let's say, more than 4 to 5 times a week. I almost said a day. Like, 4 to 5
well, there's I'm sure some CrossFit guys that are working out 4 or 5 times a day, right?
Yeah, they're not human. They don't even count. 4 to 5 times a week, I would say 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein. Okay. And then for women who are kind of working out the similar amount, about 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So, for example, if you're a 100-pound female and you work out 4 to 5 times a week and you feel like you're pretty healthy, do a lot of resistance training and strength training, then you want to aim for around 80 to 100 grams of protein at least, like as a starting point.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then what if you're not as active, but you still want to get your protein intake?
I would stay around that.
Stay around the same.
Yeah, just for health and longevity.
Okay.
Because protein's not just for muscle. People always forget that. Sure. But a lot of your hormones are protein based.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it also helps you repair like ligaments, the tissues in your organs. Everything requires protein to do.
And then when people, obviously you get a lot of the protein from your foods, but when people are looking for like a supplement to like buy at like a GNC or somewhere like that, what would you recommend in terms of what they should look for when they're buying something like that?
For a protein powder?
For a protein powder, yeah, like some kind of supplement.
Yeah, I would definitely look at the carbohydrate content and how it's sweetened. So if it's got like cane juice or straight up refined sugar in there, that's not good. Look for things like stevia, or sometimes there's this new natural sweetener called monk fruit.
Okay.
Sweetener, you can look for that too. And I would also look for weird, sketchy additives or emulsifiers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there any like kind of brand that you like you steer your clients towards? Like, is there any kind of brand that you kind of like recommend more than others, or is it just kind of dependent? Because there's always new brands coming out with different things that they're going to do for you.
Right.
But is there one that you take, or the one that you kind of like recommend mostly?
So I actually don't use any protein powders anymore. I, like, just get my protein from Whole Foods. That's what I find is most nutrient dense. You're getting kind of the bang for your buck. Okay. Not only am I getting protein, I'm also getting iron and magnesium and, you know, all that natural stuff. And when you are getting it from a shake, I turn people towards Canadian protein. Okay. It's a brand that is from Canada. Yeah. And they have a New Zealand grass-fed whey. So it's coming from cows that are grass-fed. Not that it has a huge nutritional difference than regular whey, but I just think it has a better environmental impact. Okay. And it also has very minimal packaging. Because what people don't realize is when you're paying for a protein powder, you're paying for the marketing and the logo and the design of it. And I find Canadian protein to be very minimalistic, and their prices are very good for the quality of protein that you're getting. And then if you're plant-based, I love recommending Genuine Health because they're like a local Toronto company. I'm not like affiliated with them in any way, but they have a fermented protein that's very easily digestible and has the complete amino acid profile that you want to look for as like a vegetarian or vegan.
Yeah, I've actually had one of their fermented bars, and they're actually like fermented protein bars, and they're actually really good. Mm-hmm. Like, they're really good.
Not too sugary.
No, and the taste is actually good. We don't work for Genuine Health, but Genuine Health.
But again, hook it up if you want.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so what I want to get into first here is your handle on Instagram, Kombucha Mami.
Sometimes I'll be walking down the street and my friends will see me across the street and they'll just be assholes and be like, Kombucha Mami! Like, who's Kombucha Mami? Oh yeah, that's me. Oh, saying my name.
So let's start off with how that name came to be. Okay. And
So the name is an homage to my favorite rapper, Drake.
Drizzy.
Who is Champagne Papi. Again, who we're not sponsored by, but Champagne Papi. I'm going to send over free concert tickets.
Yeah.
I'm bad about that. So Champagne Papi. And the name wasn't even conceived in Toronto. My best friend and I were traveling in San Francisco, and wherever we go, we think we're like hardcore Toronto refs. So wherever we go, we're like, yeah, this city's cool, but like Toronto, that's where it's at. Yeah, we love our city. Yeah. And I think we were just shooting the shit and like talking about like, oh yeah, we love Champagne Papi so much, but wait, what if I was like Kombucha Mami, you know? And we both kind of looked at each other like, we need to claim that name right now. We need to see if it's available. So, like, go on, like, U.S. data. Don't even have international data at that point. Okay. Go on, like, U.S. roaming. Look up Kombucha Mami. Oh, fuck, it's taken. Kombucha_Mami. It's taken. Kombucha.Mami. God damn it. And it wasn't taken.
Nice.
So like, I quickly changed my handle. And then after I came back from the trip, I'm like, this is so stupid. Why did I do that? I didn't change it back to my name, and it just didn't feel the same. So,
okay, you just kept it. Nice,
I kept it and I claimed it.
I love it, and it's catchy. Like I really like when I first saw it, I was like, okay, I knew automatically that it had to do with
those who know. Yeah. But those who don't know don't get it. Like, I've had people be like, oh, you're a mom. Oh, you have a kid. I'm like, no. It's a Drake reference. Oh, embarrassing.
Do you get that often? Do you get that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They'll be like, M-A-M-I. Oh, like you're a mom.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's actually hilarious. Okay, sweet. So it's a good way to kind of figure out, if you don't know, now you know.
Yeah.
So now, February 3rd, you have a seminar going on. So a workshop?
A workshop.
Workshop.
Yeah. It's like my little baby. So I work full-time as a nutritionist, and this workshop is something I teach on the side as a great way to interact with the community and also teach people and empower people to, you know, take their digestion into their own hands and learn more about that. So it's a DIY kombucha workshop where I teach people how to make kombucha, and they also get to taste a variety of different kombuchas.
Awesome.
And they learn how to flavor it, how to safely make it, do's and don'ts, like very detailed breakdown. And then I also have like a mini digestive health lesson built in there. So we talk about what your stomach does, what your small intestines do, large intestines, and all of that. I find when people are more empowered with knowledge, then they can make informed decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
Because my goal for all my clients or for anyone isn't to work with me for the rest of their lives. Like I love you guys, but I don't want to hold your hand forever. I also just want you to feel the freedom of being able to navigate life on your own.
That's huge, and that's the same for me in terms of personal training. Like I always say to my clients, I'm like, look, I don't want you to stay with me forever. I want you to be confident so that when you go into the gym, you know exactly what you need to do and feel confident being able to do it, right? Yeah. So it's refreshing to hear that, because I feel like that's a huge part of it, is showing that value. And like being able to have that value, not just like, yes, you can come to the workshop, get to learn how to make kombucha, but at the same time, I'm going to teach you about your stomach. You're going to learn about it, and then take away, and then not only get the information from how to make the kombucha, but also just to know how your body, how your stomach reacts to things, right? And I think that's huge. Right. That's big. That's big. So February 3rd, where can people find more information about where to sign up for that?
They can follow the link in my Instagram bio, which is kombucha.mami. Or they can go to my website at kerenchen.ca.
Hold on, so your website is not Kombucha Mami?
No. So that was the thing. It was very confusing when I first made my practice. Okay. It was like, I don't want to be Kombucha Mami, because that's something that goes over people's heads, and they don't understand that cultural reference. So yeah, it was funny. I had to make my own website after my name, and then on the website, I have a little blurb about me, and I have to explain, like, oh, my handle's Kombucha Mami, because I really like Drake.
That's amazing.
It is like a dichotomy.
No, but it's good. I like it. It definitely gets people to understand you a little bit better too, right?
Yeah, so, about my likes. Yeah, my personality.
Yeah. So they can kind of like, oh, okay, she's with it. She's with it.
Thanks.
Okay, so just a little bit more information about the workshop. So how many people are going to be? Is it going to be like at a place, or is it going to be where are you going to be holding it?
At a CrossFit gym in the Junction called Auxiliary CrossFit. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's where I started CrossFitting, and I've been there forever. Okay. Like 7 years now going on. Yeah, so it's kind of like my home away from home, and it's capped at 15 people, very intimate. Nice. I don't like to do huge workshops where everyone, feels awkward talking to each other. Sure. I like it when people really interact with each other, and that's actually one of my benchmarks for how successful the workshop is how long people stay afterwards. Yeah, like when people kind of don't want to leave and they want to stay and talk to each other. I'm like, that's my favorite thing ever.
Well, that's you creating a community, right? And that's the biggest part about it, is like creating a community focused on stomach health, right? So it's really cool that you're able to build that, right? And how many have you done so far? Like, have you done?
I honestly have lost count. So many. Yeah, it's definitely. In terms of people that have attended, it's in the hundreds. Oh, wow. For sure. But awesome. In terms of actual workshop itself, I have no idea.
Has it been a lot more private workshops, or is it like more of the workshops where it's open to the public kind of thing?
I would say more public.
More public? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I always like joke that kombucha is like my excuse to interact with people. Okay. Yeah. So I create this workshop. I love kombucha. But what I love more than kombucha is having people show up and learn about themselves and connect with them. Yeah, because
the kombucha gets them in the door, but then
exactly
shove that knowledge. Shove
Joke's
that knowledge
on you. You have to hang out with me for 2 hours now.
No, that's awesome. Sweet. So obviously, when you meet up with someone and you guys go through an extensive kind of interview process. It always, I'm guessing, because in my industry it's very similar, where you kind of have to talk about personal development.
Oh, yes.
Right? So, being able to have that conversation with someone because they need to understand that it's going to be about them in the long run, right? So, how do you kind of dive into self and personal development when you end up getting into these one-on-one kind of consultations?
I think it comes up very naturally. I think vulnerability is like a two-way street. So when I share about myself, not that I talk about myself extensively in these consultations because it's about the client, but when I share like little tidbits about my day or, share about my personal experiences and really try to empathize, people are much more willing to open up and explore that possibility that nutrition isn't just about food, that there's this whole other personal development aspect attached to it. And I always say food choices are just a symptom of whatever relationship you have with yourself. So if you love yourself and you truly want the best for yourself, then your actions will mimic that and it'll mirror that. And your food choices will show up in the way of nourishment and fueling and, abundance, versus if there's something about you that you really don't like, or there's something that you're not being honest with yourself about, then food is going to be a way to either blanket that, numb out, or help you escape your reality, or it's going to be a way for you to punish yourself too. So yeah, that's kind of where we start.
So with that being said, I find that people again are they're really confused because they have a lot of different information coming from a lot of different places, right? So when they feel like they're doing something good for themselves, they don't necessarily, I wouldn't say they wouldn't necessarily know that, okay, this is not actually helping me, versus them. Well, that's the thing, like they're getting information from other places and they're not really realizing that, like, that's not it, right? So when they meet up with you, it's like, oh, I've been doing this, this, and this, and you're like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing, right?
What do you mean by that?
So, like, I just mean, like, so if a person is coming to you, right, and they're realizing that they're coming to you obviously for a reason, right? They want to get better in nutrition, but they think they're doing something right before they met you, right? They thought, like, oh, me eating this in the morning, I thought I was doing this, I thought I was doing value to myself, I thought I was doing, like, right by myself, but, like, obviously some of the information that they're getting is not always going to be the right thing, right? So how do you kind of differ from that, like, when someone is trying to get the right information versus what the actual right information is? Because there's a lot of information, right? So
right, there is a lot of information, and I never preach one single right way.
Okay.
So just because your breakfast looks different than mine doesn't mean that you're wrong and I'm right.
Okay.
If something is working for you, even though it goes against conventional wisdom, then it works for you. Then we won't cut out that part, or we won't address it at this moment. There are going to be more pressing priorities to address, and usually people come in and they know. They already know what they need to work on.
Okay.
I'm just kind of there for validation or for support.
Yeah.
And to confirm things. But yeah.
So what are some of the biggest myths that you've heard that you have to, like, constantly break down? Like, do you have any, like, myths that people come to you with, like, I heard this or I heard that? Like, do you have to kind of debunk those?
Yeah, I think the biggest myth that people come to me with is that they have to eat less to look leaner or to lose weight. And that's really frustrating because that's like such a diet culture mentality that's instilled into people. But your body needs a certain amount of calories to function at its optimal level. Yeah. If you go below that, drastically go below that, doesn't mean your body's not going to respond with weight loss. Your body's going to respond with hoarding calories and energy as body fat. So that it can survive, because you're putting it in a famine state, right? And if you go in a surplus of that happy range, then your body's also going to be storing that as body fat. So it's all about finding what is the perfect amount for you. Eating less doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose weight or see results faster.
And then with that being said, like, with results, how often do you find people are really either frustrated with the results not happening as fast as they want, or just not seeing it in general, right?
Yeah, really, really often. What people don't realize when they first come in to see me is that it takes more than just a few days of consistency. So if you're someone that eats really well Monday to Friday, and then you fall off the wagon Saturday and Sunday, That's not okay. That's not enough consistency for you to see results soon enough. And they'll be like, oh, but I was good for 2 weeks. Like, but in reality, if we break down those 2 weeks, you were only following the plan or truly being compliant for 7 of the days, you know? So I think, yeah, definitely the time expectation is another challenge that I face.
Yeah, I find that's a big one. Even like again in my industry as well. Like it's just it's tougher because people want the results, but then they don't do the homework necessary for them to progress faster, right? So it's always just that battle of like, when am I going to see results? My friend saw results in like 5 days, and I'm not seeing anything right now. Like, and obviously it's tough because some people are going to be different than others, right? And it's just like how are you able to kind of deflect those kind of conversations, especially when, like, let's say the person was doing the right things for like up to a month to 2 months and still not seeing some kind of result. Like, is there something that like, is there like, have you ever had to deal with something like that where you've had someone that was like with you for 2 or 3 months and they were following it but not necessarily seeing the results that they wanted to see?
Yes, but I was very honest. I think you have to lean in and be compassionate. Like, yeah, it's freaking frustrating. We're doing years of habits and years of hormone damage, years of like previous knowledge that we have to completely wipe out and start fresh. It's hard. You didn't adhere as, you know, closely as you could have, and that's okay. I'm like, no one's angry, no one's mad. You shouldn't be mad at yourself. We're all learning. But yeah, usually what I do is I lead with empathy, and I also try to lean in and ask them to be honest. Like, how much of an effort did you truly give? Were there opportunities for you to have been more compliant, and that you didn't? And if the answer is no, then, you know, the proof is in the pudding.
It's true, and that's the tough conversation that people don't want to have, and they always think they're doing the right thing, but it doesn't end up like falling down that way all the time, right? Okay, sweet, cool. So we're gonna kind of switch gears a little bit. Okay, so this is kind of so you said that you are single in the moment, right? So we're gonna dive into that a little bit. So obviously this industry, the fitness industry, fitness and wellness, is very male dominant, right? And you'll have there's a lot of shitty men out there. I'm not like, I know. My gender is not the greatest gender, and we are kind of dicks sometimes. So my first question, I guess, going around this is, do you have to deal with a lot of, like, I guess, like DMs, or like if you're like teaching CrossFit, like, are you like dealing with like these men that are just like either staring at you? Like, what kind of like what I'm basically trying to get here is, what is the biggest issue with you being a woman in this industry? And like having to like deal with all like these kind of like shitty men that are trying to either hit on you or trying to like kind of like, you know, talk down to you because you're a woman.
That's a great question. I think I've been very fortunate in that hasn't happened to me a ton. Okay. Because of the workplace environments that I had chosen for myself, like Auxiliary CrossFit, amazing people there. When I first started coaching CrossFit, definitely was not as assertive as I am now. Okay. So I think people, not just men, people see that as a weakness, as a sign of lack of authority. And so if I give them a cue or if I ask them to lower their weights, they're resistant because they don't feel that I have the authority to tell them what to do. But as I developed more confidence in my coaching skills and I became more adamant and standing behind what I did, they would learn to respect me. Okay. Yeah, I think I garnered more respect from there. And then as far as like ogling or being creepy or anything like that, I haven't found that. I have many experiences with that. Yeah.
How do you find being in this industry, just like trying to either date or trying to be in a relationship? Do you find it tough?
I don't think it's hard. I think it's a choice. It's a priority, right? For me, dating is not a priority.
Okay.
Like, I'd much rather further my career and work on things that I find interesting rather than spending time trying to make time for other people. It almost sounds really selfish.
No, like people have to be selfish in that kind of way, right? Especially when you're really focused on what you're trying to do. Yeah.
I don't think it's hard. I genuinely think it's a matter of priority, and for me it's not.
Okay. So you haven't been on a date in a little while?
No, I've been on a date.
Oh, okay. So you date, but it's just
I definitely date. I'm very open to the possibility of meeting someone.
Okay.
But I think unless I meet someone that I'm absolutely sure of, and I feel like I can see a potential future with, I'm not gonna settle down, or I'm not gonna compromise how to spend my time. That's a big thing. And because obviously in this day and age, right now we're living in Facebook and Instagram, is like everyone like that's around our age, like is getting married, is like having children and stuff like that, and like and you're seeing all these things, and obviously there's a certain amount of like pressure, like when you're in the society, to like have a certain amount of things done by when you get to a certain age, right? And obviously that doesn't bother you at all, and you're kind of just like in your lane. No, because I love my life. Yeah, like I love the freedom of my life. I'm leaving for Southeast Asia for 5 weeks. Yeah, I don't have to tell anyone. I don't have to answer to anyone. I don't have to ask for permission. Yeah, I don't have to worry about finances being split with another person. I don't have to worry about paying for anyone else's education or whatever. Like it's great. There's a lot of freedom associated with it, and I think at this point in my life, that's what I need is freedom. So like you're like going on these dates, and then you'd be like, nah. I just ghost them. Nah. Done. Is that so? Like, I guess my question would be like, has there been like a second date? Like, how often would you go on a second or third date? Like, does that happen, or is it just like, no? Kind of thing. No. And then I just leave. No, there usually is a second date. So I think first dates it's hard for me to tell if someone's being genuine on the first date. We all put on a front. Like, we just can't help it. Like, I put on a front too. I'm not 100% myself. Yeah. Swear a lot more on the second date. We haven't sworn much here at all yet. Yeah. We haven't said fuck once, not yet. Fuck. So, Drizzy Drake. My future ex-husband. Alright, so since, you have your name dedicated to Drake, so to say, not as dedicated, but what would you say, if you had to do top 3 Drake albums? Oh, entire albums. Entire albums. I have to go with entire albums because I can't just do. Okay. I can't just do songs. What would you say top 3 have to be in order? 3, 2, 1. Thank Me Later. Nothing Was the Same. So Far Gone. Ooh. Vintage Drake. So let's break this down. Let's break this down a little bit. First one was Thank Me Later. All right. His second. Because So Far Gone was basically his first. Yeah. That was a great. Yeah. I don't mind that. Usually I'm a little critical with the number 1 spot there, but So Far Gone being number 1, I'll take that. Number 3, Thank Me Later. All right. No, Thank Me Later's first. I did in reverse order. Oh, whoa. Thank Me Later. That's the number 1 album? Mm-hmm. Interesting. Why? Rob's like, disagree. Turn off the camera. This interview's over. Yeah. Get out. You just messed up. Yeah. Very loud grunt from behind the scenes there. So, Thank Me Later, number 1. We'll have to talk about that. Let's get into that. Okay. So, why? I think it's the first album of his that I listened to, like from front to back. Where So Far Gone, I know it came out earlier, but I had only listened to like pieces of songs. Okay. So it just feels like very nostalgic to me whenever I hear that soundtrack or any of the songs on it.
Sweet.
Yeah, and I like listen to it front and back.
So Scorpion doesn't even get to top 3.
Scorpion B-side, like maybe top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Take Care. Didn't like
Take Care. I didn't love Take Care.
Okay.
I loved the song Take Care with Rihanna, but the rest of the album wasn't. It didn't resonate with me.
Okay.
All right. Rob's about to strangle me. Fear for my safety, guys. I feel like we need to change the topic now. Oh my god, I'm gonna get hate mail from people.
Start sending them now. Start sending them now.
I still love them. It's just, if you held a gun to my head and made me choose, that's my order. I obviously love Drake.
Alright. And then if I held a gun to you and then asked you the number 1 song, like if you had to introduce someone to Drake, what's the song that you're putting on first?
Oh, probably, what's that song? You the best? No, you the fucking best. You the fucking best.
What song is that? What is that called?
Best I Ever Had.
Oh, Best I Ever Had. Yeah.
Best song by Drake ever. Best I ever had?
Not the best song by Drake ever, but the one that I remember him as.
Okay.
Yeah. It was his big breakout hit.
Yeah, no, it was definitely.
Yeah. But Jungle, one of my favorite songs.
I like Jungle a lot. That was actually that album.
Big Sean.
That album was a really good album. If you're reading this is too late, people really underestimate that one, but that one was
so good, and that was a surprise drop.
It was
like, here I am.
Yeah. No, and I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. But I'm just gonna say my top 3 so that we can have mine there too.
Okay.
So my number 3 is gonna be. I'm gonna have to say it will be Scorpion.
Oh.
I'm gonna actually put Scorpion as number 3 for me. Listen, Rob, alright?
Rob, I feel like Rob needs to come here for this.
You know what? Yeah, Rob, you're doing this for this one, buddy.
Come here. We need to hear your top 3 too. So
hold on, let me
this
say my top 3.
entire time, I've been listing my top 3. Rob's in the back no. I'm like, God.
So, I'm gonna finish off my top 3. So, Scorpion's number 3. I actually enjoyed that album. It was not too bad.
I liked Scorpion.
Yeah, it was...
I didn't enjoy Scorpion, really.
Talked a little shit on it.
I liked, maybe the first part A, maybe 4 songs from that.
It's not R&B, guy.
I don't listen to part B at all. Maybe, in my feelings a bit. No, After Dark. That's the only song I might go back to.
That whole part, March 14th, all of that was... okay. Yeah. Anyway, number 2, So Far Gone.
Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. Classic.
That whole album.
Yeah.
And then number 1 for me is Take Care. Number 1 for me is Take Care.
We're so different.
Yeah.
Mine's more similar to yours, so I'd say maybe So Far Gone number 1.
Okay.
Okay.
Take Care 2. And then 3 would be tied between Nothing Was the Same and If You're Reading This Is Too Late.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I can yeah. The number 3.
Yeah.
Because let's go back to If You're Reading This Is Too Late, and the songs still hold up.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
I feel like that was very
it was ahead of its time. Now the current sound now copies that sound.
But I mean, okay, for in that instance as well, the amount of people that were working on that album,
for sure,
as well was that's why I feel like it was a little bit different.
Yeah, more bigger songs, less personal.
Yeah.
But still very good.
No, for sure.
Talking a lot of shit about how great he is. We we love that Drake guy. The cocky Drake.
Yeah. Okay, sweet.
Oh, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Sir Robert Fresh.
This is my time.
Making the faces behind the scenes.
Yeah. He's our live audience. If you hear laughter, it's Rob. You hear boos, it's Rob.
This is taken in front of a live studio audience. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, cool. So I just want to quickly touch on to the CrossFit Games.
Okay.
Or just CrossFit in general, and just how you feel how did you get into CrossFit? What kind of introduced you to that?
I tried it off of a Groupon.
Okay.
Super cheap on Groupon. Decided to give it a try. And I was following a lot of paleo bloggers at the time who also did CrossFit. So they kind of went hand in hand. And what struck me about CrossFit was the community. Like, everybody was so nice. And although I knew nothing about lifting barbells at all, like, there are some embarrassing pictures out there on the internet about me like, with the most round back doing snatches and deadlifts. Anyway, I've come a long way.
Yeah.
At no point did I ever feel judged for my lack of athleticism.
Okay.
And growing up, I was very, very, very not athletic.
Okay.
Like, did not play team sports, tried to pick up running, but really didn't like it. And so because I sucked at it, I didn't want to work on it. That's how things go, right? Like,
yeah, 100%.
Didn't want to work on things that I sucked at.
Yeah.
So when I was in this new environment where everybody was encouraging you to be, to be better and to work on those weaknesses, I felt like really inspired.
Oh, that's awesome.
I stuck around that.
Sweet. And then is there any like, as you were starting to follow the sport more, did you find that you were
following a certain amount of like athletes? So did you follow any athletes, or do you like any athletes or look up to any of them?
In the beginning, I followed. That was my entire Instagram follow. Is just all CrossFit.
I remember that.
Games. Yeah, definitely very engulfed in that world.
Yeah.
And I went to the CrossFit Games for a year to spectate. Like
how she just automatically.
Not to compete. God. Yeah, no. Still tried to look really fit to spectate, though.
Yeah.
Still worked out and like.
What year did you go?
Ate really well. I think it was 2016 or 2015.
Oh, cool.
Back when it was still in California.
Oh, cool.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah,
I went with a group of friends from the gym and like talk about living in a CrossFit bubble.
Yeah.
For that week, essentially. Like, everywhere we went, CrossFit took over this little town in California called Carson.
Yes.
City.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we would go to gas stations, everybody's wearing CrossFit clothes. Go to the Whole Foods, like, games athletes, shopping, buying bone broth, and like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was really, really into CrossFit, and there are so many people I follow that are still competing, which says a lot about the sport and about them. Like Annie Thor's daughter, Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet. Yeah. I loved her because she was short like me.
Okay.
She was such a powerhouse. I'm like, she can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. I couldn't do it.
And it's funny because I got into CrossFit around like 2014. Mm-hmm. And I
saw pictures of, I think, you snatching or something
like
that.
Yeah. And you know what? I being in that sport and like following all of these athletes and like seeing how much weight they were lifting and like, and then I realized this is not an excuse. Like I say things about excuses, but it's not an excuse. Like, these athletes are all 5'9", 5'8", 5'7". Like, literally, that is like for like males, like that is like where they like where the range is. So like I'm doing all these trying to do all these movements like handstands, and I'm like trying to do like other movements where it requires like, to use my long ass arms. Like, my arms are super long, and like I'm just super long. So like I was like I'm very competitive, but like I couldn't get those movements for the fuck of me. Like, I couldn't even do it because like, and that's not an excuse. Like, I really like always in the gym trying, but like after a while, it's just like, look, man, I can't compete with these guys. And I was like, and I wanted to, like, I was doing the open. I was like, okay, I want to really try and do it. But like, oh man, it got tough. It got really tough. But I still love it because I watched the CrossFit Games, and like to see how it has evolved from when I started watching it, like in 2013 to like now, like these guys are animals.
Machines.
Animals.
Like, not human.
Like, animals. I'm watching documentaries on these guys. Yeah. And, like, they're working out 5 times a day. Like, they're animals. And it's, like, crazy to just see that work ethic and, like, and, like, be able to kind of, like, transfer that, even, like, little bits of that to my life and, like, to be able to do that. And, like, I feel like that's what CrossFit has, like, taught me a lot about, is just being able to, like, dedicate yourself to like something that's like, this is a little bit scary, but at the
same time, something that's new, learning new skills and everything like that, right? So
something I love that is like a saying that's in the CrossFit world is just be 1% better every day at something, at anything. And eventually that 1% will accumulate and it'll make you that much better as a whole. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that.
Yeah.
Like when you first get into CrossFit, like I want to compete against everyone else, compare our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. None of the CrossFit Games athletes are training, like they are training to be the best in the world and to beat their competitors, but they don't train together every single day. They just have to believe that the work that they're putting in is making them that much better, that on game day, they show up and they've done all the work that they can.
Yeah. So. And my whole little rant there was like, the first part of it was basically that, like me not like comparing myself or like wanting to be as good as those guys versus just trying to be better myself, right?
Yeah.
And just get 1% better. And like, that's what I've kind of like realized from that is like being able to like just be better, period, right? And just trying to do what you can do and be better than yourself. And like, that's a big part of it. And like, I'm sure you struggle with that with people in terms of like when you start coaching them with nutrition and like they always see these celebrities or these other athletes that are promoting certain diets or promoting certain things that they want to follow in that footstep, right? Versus trying to, like you say, kind of like listening to themselves, right? And kind of like figuring out what works for them and what doesn't. But I find, it's tough to kind of like try to balance that out, right? From like comparing yourself to others to like just doing your own thing. Yeah. Right?
Comparison really is the thief of joy.
I've never heard that actually.
Really? I came up with it. No.
Say that again. What is that?
It also sounds like a lower back tattoo. Funny story, when Jerome first asked me or told me about the podcast, he's like, I'm doing this podcast called Live, Laugh, Lift. I'm like, that sounds like a lower back tattoo. Straight up.
No, it's all good. Like, I mean, you know what? I get that.
No, it's great though. It's memorable. But yeah, awesome. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Comparison is the thief of joy. I like that. And it just goes with everyday life. It goes with everyday life. Keren, spin facts.
The other day, someone commented on one of my. Sometimes in my Instagram posts, I like to just journal down my thoughts for myself, and then I'll reword it to kind of package it into a message for other people too. Like that's a lot of my Instagram posts are just journal excerpts, basically.
That's good.
And one of my friends commented with a fax machine emoji. And I was like, why? I don't understand. What is a fax emoji? Oh, fax. Like F-A-C-T-S. Oh. So cool.
What's your most used emoji? What emoji do you use the most?
The cry laugh emoji.
Okay.
Sure.
You use that one the most?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I laugh at everything in real life.
Well, I feel like that's the very, like, what people do with LOL, right? I feel like people LOL, like, with everything, even though they're not really LOLing.
Yeah. That's a huge pet peeve of mine. Like, when people have to end every sentence with LOL. Yeah. It's not confident.
People use it conveniently. They'll use LOL like at the end of something maybe like that's a little bit harsh. Yeah. And they're like, but LOL to make it not as harsh or like to make it seem like a little bit better than it actually is. It's like, how am I gonna finish this sentence without being really rude? LOL. LOL. Let me add that in. Yeah. All right. Well, we get into the last portion of our episode, and I like to finish with this or that.
Okay.
So we're going to go through a couple questions, you know.
And I just pick?
You just pick this or that. Okay. And then brief little description why. And then... Okay. Good to go. So, first one. Okay. Burgers or tacos?
Tacos.
Why tacos?
I feel like with tacos you can be even more adventurous with textures. That's a big thing for me. I like really crunchy things. and you can taste the crunch more in a taco form. Yeah. And a burger's also a big commitment. It's like, you gotta be so full after that burger. There's tacos you can eat like 1 or 2 as a snack, or you can eat 12.
Interesting. Okay.
Depending on how hungry you are.
No, that's true. Okay. Beyonce.
Like, who are you gonna say?
Why was that?
You're gonna get so much hate mail if I pick wrong.
Beyonce or Nicki Minaj? It's not that hard.
Beyonce.
Beyonce over Nicki?
Yeah.
And let me kind of give a little bit of context with that. So,
is there beef that I don't know about?
No. I'm just asking just because, like, I don't know. I find like a lot of people, like they really have big fan bases, both of them, right? You have like, what is it, the Beehive or
Beehive?
Yeah, Beehive, and then you have like Nicki's fans and everything like that. So I never really know what people like who they ride with more, but I guess Beyonce.
I feel like the question you should ask is Nicki Minaj or Cardi B.
But you see, with me, like, I actually asked that question to Julian.
Who's not the right person, like the most zen, like does not participate in gossip.
No, he's not really a beefy type of guy. But like with that question, it's just like for me, it's automatically Nicki, just because Cardi's not really there yet. It's hard to. That's why I asked Beyonce or Nicki, because they both have. Yes, obviously Beyonce has a greater catalog than Nicki, but Nicki is still she's a pioneer in terms of like one of the first women to like get as much notice as she has, right? So that's why I kind of like compare those two versus comparing Cardi and Nicki, but definitely Beyonce for you.
Yeah, Beyonce.
Yeah, were you a Destiny's Child fan?
Yes, kind of. Like, you have to remember, I came to Canada in 2002.
Oh, okay.
Like, so a lot of the pop culture references from the 90s or early 2000s were kind of lost on me, and I had to play a lot of catch up because I didn't speak English at that time.
Okay.
Like, the first time I watched Friends was in Mandarin. Like, that's crazy to people.
That's super cool, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting.
So, it's been challenging trying to transition, and I feel like I identify with the culture a lot, but I've missed a lot of years of keeping up with popular culture. But yeah, Destiny's Child, definitely into them, but at the time that they were very famous and still together, no. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Snatch or Clean and Jerk?
Clean and Jerk.
Clean and Jerk, or
okay. Why? Those are Olympic weightlifting terms. If you guys are unsure.
Yeah, like what jerk? What snatch? I like the Clean and Jerk, which is a 2-step movement, so you get a little break in between, which is nice. And the snatch is also just like really hard on the elbows for me personally. Okay. Yeah, it's a wide grip, just very awkward.
Just not really having it. All right. Okay, sweet. And then just in terms of like just a quick nutrition one here. So cookies. I'm asking all the bad questions.
Like, that's not a nutrition question.
No, because you know what I find? Okay, I'm just going to say that. I find that when I'm on Instagram and I see, like, I follow a lot of nutritionists as well, and it's always, like, I understand it. Like, obviously you're trying to brand and everything. People are trying to brand. Everything's always about, like, what they're eating the best of, and like all these like great tips, which is great. Like, and I love that, love the value and love everything like that. But I don't find they talk enough about like the shitty things that they eat, like being hungover and just like kind of like just like eating whatever, or just like kind of like having a guilty pleasure or something like that, right? So I find that when people see you, right, they're obviously put you on this pedestal, as they should, because of your knowledge. But at the same time, you want it to be kind of realistic in a way and relatable, where people still know that, like, okay, yeah, she super informative, big time expert, but she still has maybe like a guilty pleasure with like cookies or like a biscotti. I don't know, right? So cookies or
I would say ice cream.
Cookies.
Cookies over ice cream?
Yeah, which people will massacre me for. Be like, you don't like ice cream? Because I can't do dairy.
Oh, okay.
I don't do any milk or dairy.
Okay.
So I loved ice cream, but the consequences outweighed the benefits of eating dairy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so cookies for sure. And I like texture.
Okay.
So like the crunchiness of a cookie. Ugh.
Cookies inside of ice
I'm
cream?
hungry right now.
Cookies.
Yeah, I can stand behind that. Sometimes I still eat ice cream. Only if it's sandwiched between cookies, though. Like, once a year, I'll eat ice cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and just, like, deal with the consequences kind of thing.
Yeah, that or Coconut Bliss has a really good coconut ice cream.
I actually like that one. I've tried that a couple of times.
Yeah.
I use that as a little substitute there if I need a little
It's not bad.
Awesome, man. Well, that was
great
sweet.
podcast. Thanks for watching.
That was awesome. That was really good. I learned a lot more than.
And there's a lot of laughing.
I learned a lot more than I thought I was like for sure.
Oh, sweet.
That was like I didn't know half of that stuff.
Great.
I didn't know half of that. Like
I hope your audience feels the same.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. Especially because this is something that's tangible that they can take away, whereas like the other episodes were more geared towards like they're a little bit more fitness based, and it's like harder for people to like get into that. But this is something that they can kind of take on and like trying to work within their daily lives, right? So if you want to find Kombucha Mami, you know, you can get her on Instagram. Where else are you on? Where else can they find you, the people?
You can follow me on Facebook if anyone still uses that.
Old people still use that. And that's what you want.
Yeah, Keren Chen Nutrition. And I also have a LinkedIn page that I sign into probably once a year.
People are sleeping on LinkedIn. You gotta get on LinkedIn.
Yo, really?
Yeah.
You're sleeping on it? It's cool?
Yeah, you gotta get on there.
There's too many people messaging me about random shit.
Yeah, I know. I just shut that.
Like
I just shut that off. I mean, but like in terms of corporate stuff, like I mean, be able to get in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then just Instagram is my main mode of creativity and expression. Yeah.
Don't forget about February 3rd. Get on it, people. Drinking kombucha. I'm gonna have my kombucha now. I'm going to get a little taste of that after. What's the flavor you brought today?
Maple cinnamon. So our friend Tom and Andrea have their own maple syrup. They like literally gather maple sap and then render it and then bottle it themselves, which is wild to me. Yeah. And they gave me some to put into my kombucha. And it's awesome. Delicious.
Yeah, I know
it's all natural sweetener.
Yeah, they're that's awesome that they do that. That's a different topic, but like, yeah, that's
awesome.
Have
them on the show.
Yeah, Tom is like...
Yeah, Tom is so funny.
He's the most interesting, like, he has to speak 7 different languages.
Yeah, and he's so, like, low-key about it, too. He's like,
very low-key.
I speak that, too. Wakandan, I speak that.
Oh, that's dope, though. Okay, sweet, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yay.